The Last Stand. They were just 23 men. A ragged band of soldiers cut off from their army, stranded on a hill no one would bother to name on a map. The enemy? A force of over 300 armed to the teeth, closing in like a storm. This is the story of their last stand, a tale of grit, defiance, and the human spirit pushed to its breaking point. It was dawn November 17th, in a war that had already claimed millions. Their orders were simple: hold the line, but the line had crumbled hours ago. Their radios were dead, their ammo was low, and their reinforcements? A dream swallowed by the chaos. They were alone, surrounded by a landscape of mud and smoke, with the horizon darkening under the weight of the enemy's advance. Their leader was a man named Captain Elias Kane, a wiry figure with a voice like gravel and eyes that had seen too much. He wasn't a hero from the storybooks. No grand speeches, no shining armor. Just a soldier who knew the math didn't add up. He gathered his men, boys really, some barely old enough to shave, and told them the truth. Captain Elias Kane, we're not walking off this hill, but we can make them pay for every step they take. The battle began with the dawn. The air was thick with tension, every soldier knowing what was to come. The enemy came at first light, a wave of gray uniforms, rifles glinting in the weak sun, their shouts echoing like a tide. The unit had 2 machine guns, a handful of grenades, and rifles that jammed if you looked at them wrong. Against that, mortars, bayonets, and sheer numbers. The odds were a cruel joke, but Kane's men didn't laugh. They dug in, piling rocks and dirt into makeshift cover, and waited. The first clash was brutal. The enemy charged, expecting a quick rout, but those 23 fought like cornered wolves. Private Harrow, a farm kid from nowhere, manned the machine gun until the barrel glowed red. He didn't stop, even as bullets tore through the air around him. 3 assaults came that morning, and 3 times they held. Bodies piled up at the base of the hill, a grim testament to their refusal to break. By noon, the enemy paused. They brought up artillery, small cannons that spat fire and steel. Shells rained down, turning the hill into a hellscape. Dirt flew, rocks shattered, and men screamed. Kane took shrapnel in the leg but stayed upright, barking orders through the dust. Hold your ground, as if willpower alone could stop the barrage. And somehow, it did. When the smoke cleared, 18 of them were still standing. Bloodied, deafened, but standing. The enemy tried a new tactic, flanking from the west, where the hill sloped into a gully. They thought they'd found a weak spot. They were wrong. Sergeant Mira Torres, a sharpshooter with a steady hand and a colder heart, picked them off one by one. She didn't waste a shot. 12 men fell before they even reached the ridge. The others turned back, her rifle's crack lingering in the air like a warning. Afternoon bled into dusk. The unit was down to half clips and borrowed courage. Their water was gone, their bandages were rags, and the air stank of gunpowder and death. The enemy regrouped, their officers shouting orders in a language the defenders didn't need to understand. This time, they came from all sides. A human tide meant to drown the hill in sheer force. Kane looked at his men, their faces pale but fierce, and nodded. No words. Just a nod. They knew what it meant. The final stand began as the sun dipped low, painting the sky red like a wound. The machine guns sputtered out early, their ammo spent. Grenades flew, tearing gaps in the enemy ranks, but the gaps filled too fast. It came down to rifles, then bayonets, then fists. Private Harrow fell, a bayonet in his chest, still clutching his gun. Torres went down swinging, her rifle stock splintered over an enemy's skull. Kane fought to the last, a pistol in one hand, a knife in the other, until a bullet found his heart. When it was over, the hill was silent. The enemy had won, but at a cost they couldn't fathom. Of the 300 who attacked, fewer than 100 walked away. The hill, that nameless scrap of earth, was a graveyard, proof that 23 men could defy an army. No medals were pinned, no songs were sung. Their names faded into the war's endless roll call. But the story lingered. Why did they fight? Duty? Fear? Brotherhood? Maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was just the stubborn human refusal to go quietly. They weren't saints or legends. They were soldiers, ordinary men who for one day became something more. A spark in the dark, A last stand that said, "Not yet, not without a fight." And that's the power of their story. It's not about winning, it's about standing. When the world expects you to fall, when the odds tower like mountains, you plant your feet and say, "Come and take me." That hill wasn't just dirt and blood. It was a monument carved in a single day to what we're capable of when everything else is lost. So remember them. Not their names, not their faces, those are gone. Remember the choice. 23 against 300, a flicker of defiance against a storm. That's the last stand. That's the fire that doesn't die.